our task is to loop through the suspects array.
So I named a function foo.
Okay. Like that.
Yep. Brackets. Set up a for loop. So for let I equal 0.
Okay.
I is less than game.length.
Okay.
I plus plus.
Great. What does this kind of loop do?
It's going to advance through the members of the array.
What does this mean right here?
It declares the sort of iterative variable, and starts it at 0, and then we'll go through the number of the members of array as specified by the length of the array.
Yeah, so while this is true, it will increment by
Yeah,
1.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Cool. Why did you choose this kind of loop?
Because don't really necessarily know the number of the members in advance. So, if you added any, it would be dynamic based on its length, basically.
Yeah.
So if you ever added members to the array, it would still be workable.
Got it.
So console.log. Game. I. And then semicolon.
Cool. What do we think? Is it gonna run? Is it gonna work?
I think it's going to log suspects. Need to call the function.
Do you think it's gonna log suspects?
Yeah, once you call
It didn't call the function there.
Yeah. So we didn't call the function. That's a problem. And then when we call it, we're gonna loop through. And you think it's gonna call suspects? Why?
'Cause I was just playing around with it, and I think that's what happened to me. But I think, yeah, at that first level of the game object, the only thing it has is this object suspects, which is an array. So at that level of like game dot whatever, there's only suspects. So there should be a length of just 1, and it will return that array of objects.
Got it. I see what you're saying, but it's an object, so the object doesn't have a length. So that's a problem. For the very first time that this loop runs, what is I? How about checkered plaid?
I is me. I is
Oh, I get it. I was like,
the
What do you-
object, the game object itself.
where are we saying that I is the game object? What line?
Be,
14?
because 15 console.log game I, and at that point I is actually I is game.length is going to be
If you said type of I, what do you think it is supposed to be? A number. Do you see where we're assigning it to a number?
Yeah, in line 14, where you're saying let I equal 0. 0 is a starting iteration number.
Yeah, so at this line, this is where we are defining I, and we're starting it out at 0. So in the very first loop, what do you think I is?
Oh,
Where we're setting it, I.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sorry, it's 0.
0.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I is 0 in the very first loop. So then, is I less than game.length?
So is game.length undefined or is it 0?
I think
Or
it's
is it 1?
undefined.
So we could fix it by game.suspects.length.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now,
And that will have a length then because it's an array,
yeah.
not an object.
And then game at I, right? So I is 0. We can kind of replace it like that. What is game at 0?
Game at 0 should be.
Shouldn't it be game.suspects?
Mm-hmm. Because there is no game at 0. Yep. Perfect. Awesome. Any questions about that and how that works? So this is a little tricky. It's like one of those like easy things that people give magic to when really it's telling you everything that it's doing. So we're defining where our start variable is, right? We're giving it a condition while this condition is true. And then every loop do a thing, right? And it's going to increment. You can increment it multiple times or whatever. So there isn't anything magic happening here. We use them a lot with arrays.
Someone in the chat room's getting fancy with for each.
Nice. We'll get there in the
Get
next
there.
For a game, is it for a game to also use map?
Mm-hmm. Could use map if you want to return an array. Yeah, we're gonna in the next slides after this we do each and map. Yeah, awesome. So where was I? Yeah. So there's no magic here. Why do we use this kind of loop with an array? And would you use this with an object?
Well, with an array, arrays have numerical values associated with them. So they map well onto the way this iterates.
Yep, exactly. And that's it. So this loop has really nothing to do with arrays. We have a for-in loop, right? Which is actually for objects, right? Which has a special relationship. But this for loop is just doing math. You know, it's very straightforward. Cool. Any questions?
Could you also use brackets? So it would be game dot bracket strings suspect dot length. Would that do the
Yeah, you
same?
could also do that. I don't recommend using brackets when you don't have to. I use it in my examples just to remind you that that's a thing that exists. But in general, if you can do a dot, you know, it saves you like 4 or so keystrokes. You know, I think that's best. And we have to use brackets here. Why?
Because well, because I guess you could use a dot if key was like a property on the object obj, but in this case it's not a property of it, it's just like a variable.
Yep. What's the giveaway that it's a variable? Yeah, let.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, you can leave this off, to be honest, but that's the giveaway. And you can change this to whatever you want. It's just a variable name. I like to show that by just calling it pickle. Pickly, that's what it's going to be. You know, it just needs to match. Awesome.